All right, so with Dispriest Rogue, there's not as straightforward of like a strategy or script, at least for us, as there was for maybe say like the Warrior Druid was. The general idea is that I like to apply pressure to their priest, especially if their rogue is on my priest, and then I usually do like timely peels, whether that be clones or feral charges into bashes. Um, the reasoning being there is if the rogue is on your priest and you're on the rogue, all three of you are kind of grouped up and you're all kind of focusing on either doing damage or preventing damage, and the priest on the enemy team is the only person in the game with no pressure. They get to kind of stand at a distance, dispel, mana burn, cast. They kind of have free reign, and then they also can run in and get the double fear on you and your priest. So yeah, we like to kind of keep that spacing to where if you're like pouncing on their priest, then maiming them, hopefully you can just make a little distance between you two, and then if the priest tries to fear you off of them, then hopefully your priest is far enough away to not get hit by the fear, and then they can dispel it. As far as the opener goes, our general strategy here is that as soon as we see this priest rogue, I pop my dash, and then my priest hits me with the Palm Renew Power Word shield, and I run in and I open the priest. The idea here is just that if their rogue saps your priest, and then they want to open you, they have to kind of run all the way over your priest and then run over here. If the rogue is sitting right next to the priest and they open you, like right when you open their priest, then you still have a couple heals up. The other alternative is you kind of just sitting next to your priest in stealth while their rogue saps them, and then their priest comes in and full dispels your priest. We just don't really like that. It feels like you're starting behind with all your priest buff being dispelled for free, basically. In this one, the rogue just opens my priest, and it kind of becomes me 1v1ing their priest versus the rogue 1v1ing my priest over there. As we go on, I think I'm going to hit this priest here with a maim, and then I'm going to peel. So the big thing that you want to look out for in Priest Rogue is when to use your trinket. Like I mentioned before, ideally the fear can be dispelled by your priest. So ideally you want to trinket the blind if you're like not the kill target, or there are also times when you want to just trinket the kidney shot, especially if you're caught in like a vulnerable position and you're the kill target. So here I go and I charge the rogue, I go to peel, and he blinds me. I trinket instantly, which, because I'm in bear form and you can't be sapped off that blind, the worst thing that would happen is this priest would come up and walk over to me and then fear me. But most likely, since my priest used stone form and desperate prayer, my priest could walk away from me, right? So that then we both wouldn't get double feared. That probably isn't the worst situation to be in. I probably could have sat this blind, but as a rule of thumb, usually trinketing blind is not, a full blind is not that bad. The bigger problem is my decisions next here. The way that we usually win versus Dispriest Rogue is the mana battle. So the thing that you have that they don't is the innervate. Priests are generally pretty hard on their mana, especially if they want to do things like mana burns and mind blasts or just damage in general. They can dump through their mana very quickly. So the way that you want to use your innervate is you don't want their priest to be able to dispel it. So once you get the priest trinket, you can do a full maim into a clone, into a bash, or whatever it is to just keep the priest CC'd the entire time that the innervate is on your priest. So when I see that this guy's at 35% health, I'm thinking, okay, if I go and cycle in the priest, I'll get his trinket, or the rogue will be very close to dying. What I didn't think about is probably one of the biggest things you want to avoid is being caught in a fear or blind in caster form. So you see he trinkets it, he hits me with the fear in caster form, and I have no trinket, and my priest is PSing and trying to live, right? So they don't really have the globals to get me, and then this rogue comes, and he saps me off of that. So especially because I trinketed that first blind, and blind is a 1.5-minute cooldown versus the trinket, which is a 2-minute cooldown, this extra 10 seconds of CC is absolutely game changing. It completely changes this game from what could have been probably a win to just a complete loss. By the time I come out of this, the pre-sphere only has 10 seconds left, right? And now I'm at a point where my priest has used all their cooldowns, PS, Desperate Prayer, Stone Form, Trinket, PI, like, I have to peel, right? Because, I mean, I've been CC'd for 20 seconds straight now. So I come in, and I'm getting a bit desperate here. I get a pounce on the rogue, which is good. He trinkets, which is fine. But then he pops evasion, so I'm thinking I most likely won't get a maim there, and I'm going to start casting a clone. I was a little too close, and he hit me with the kick. So now, again, I'm just trying to peel. I'm doing the bear charge route into a bash, and then as soon as the kick's done, I'm going to try to clone. But because I was in CC, in a sap for an extra 10 seconds, the fear's back up. So now I get full feared. My priest is, just trying to live in what has probably been a 1v2 for, almost 30 seconds straight without me. I get a re, and I'm going to try to reopen the rogue. Partly because he's the damage dealer and I just want to shut him down, partly because I still have combo points. In reality, my stun DR is still up, so it was probably better if I just would have opened the priest. But I go on the rogue, I get a 1-second stun, he gouges me, crippling me, run away. And then I chase him to just go do some more peeling here. I get the maim on him. To kind of give my priest some breathing room, and you'll see, like, right here we're not in too bad of a position. Their priest actually has less mana, their rogue has less health. My priest is a little bit not topped off, but we're in a fine position because we have both their trinkets and both their wills. The big problem here is just because I sat in that sap for 10 seconds, right? We're 10 seconds behind, and you'll see how important that becomes here in a second. So I get the maim I'm going on the priest now. I'm building up the combo points to get the maim so that I can innervate without him being able to dispel. I hit him with the maim, I hit the innervate, and then I'm going to again go for the CC combo where I cyclone off a bit, but blind is coming up now in 2 seconds. If we had an extra 10 seconds here before this blind, this is an easy clone off of this guy. Or my priest can run away, I could heal my priest. Like, they're gonna go up to almost 6-7k mana, even if the rogue kicks or deadly throws or does whatever he can to stop my cast. It wouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, instead, because I got in that sap, I get hit with this blind, I'm stuck in the full blind, and it's back to a 1v2 with my priest at 20% health, and then we lose the game. Alright, so another Dispriest Rogue game here. As you'll see, as soon as we see it's Dispriest Rogue, I put on the dash, my priest hits me with the palm, the renew, the shield, and I go and I open the priest. This time the rogue is right there. He opens on me, but as you'll see, because I had all those healing buffs up, he doesn't really get, even though he gets full cheap shot, full kidney shot, he does in cat form, it's not that much damage right there. I go to charge their priest to close the gap, and they get a fear on me. Now, we also get a fear on the rogue, but something that sucks is just the RNG. Of course, the rogue is up there, so his priest can dispel, and I run all the way off to Timbuktu. So I'm coming back here. They have a little bit more pressure now just from the fear pathing. Their rogue kind of reopens on my priest, and then that means that their priest is free to stand at a distance and mana burn, while my priest has to pop PS and kind of survive. So now, because my priest is on the back foot, I'm going for peels here. I start casting a clone on the rogue, and I start casting a pre-clone in case he trinkets. He doesn't trinket, and my priest jumps off, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go root this rogue and try to keep him from chasing my priest. I also don't want him to get a free stealth off of this. He does try to stealth and cheap shot me, but it resists, so he has to use a vanish. And then the priest gets a double fear right here. So I'm in a fear, my priest is still in a fear. I don't know why things are green there for a second. So look, I'm in a fear. You can kind of see the icon right above my priest, even though they're wailing into him. Another thing is just the RNG of a fear breaking. So even though the rogue is just beating on my priest and the other priest is mana burning, his fear doesn't break, so he can't dispel me. I don't want to trinket this fear because I know they still have a blind. And so I'm just kind of sitting it, unfortunately. I go, my priest is literally at 0 mana now. So my thinking is the only way to come back is either I start pumping out a bunch of healing on my priest, or we go for an innervate play. Because my priest is at full health, I figure, okay, I at least got some time to get this priest trinket, right? Because in order to go for the innervate play, you got to get the other priest trinket so they can't dispel the innervate. I go for the bash, he trinkets it, which is exactly what I wanted. Now I can go for the full clone, and I instantly pop the innervate on my priest. My priest is out of line of sight from their priest, so my thinking here is just I'm going to feral charge him, right? Then I'm going to go into cap form, just get one combo point and maim him. Just anything I can do to stall him from getting to that innervate. At that point now, I need to start thinking about how I'm going to let my priest survive, because a rogue will kill him eventually. So I'm going for the healing here. They're trying to dispel. I realize, all right, my priest has a ton of mana at least, can be popping. I think he's popping off Holy Novas, right? Just to do damage and to heal himself quickly without casting. And I'm thinking, if he lives and I can get a peel, then we're going to be in a much better place. So I get a 3-second maim into a clone. I precast the next clone, and the guy doesn't trinket, which is why, I've talked about this in another video, but it's like, if you are really on the back foot, precasting the next clone doesn't really have a downside, because it's like he either sits the clone or he trinkets and then he's in another clone. In this one, he decides to sit for my precast and then he late trinkets, but unfortunately for him, he just couldn't get far enough to where I could recast the next one. So he still ended up in a half, which is why it's just always good to precast there. My priest gets a double fear here, and then we basically are resetting. The big difference maker here is that the rogue has already used prep, both their vanishes, both their sprints. He still has an evasion, but as the game goes on, the reason why you want the game to kind of play longer is just the rogue has cooldowns that they need to use, and you don't. So as the game goes on and they use more and more and more of those cooldowns, their kind of power level and their utility goes down, while you're kind of just at the same, ability to do things, unless you're going Their priest is now going to kind of drink. They realize, the innervate play kind of gave my priest a little too much mana. Right here, they're going to swap to me, and the rogue's going to get a full kidney while I'm in cat form. They do pump a good amount of damage. He also realizes his blind is coming back up, and so he runs over to blind my priest so that he can try to go for the kill, but my priest had the trinket. As soon as they see that my priest trinketed, they decide to swap to my priest, right? They're going to now go for the kidney shot kill on my priest. When you realize that you're not the kill target anymore, you don't, even though I'm at 5k health, it may not feel very safe to go into, Dispriest Rogue at 5k health, but he had already used those combo points on me, and it's pretty apparent to me that they want to swap to my priest because he just used his trinket. Well, my trinket's coming back up very soon, right? So you want to get out of bear form. You want to be in cat form as soon as you realize they're not focusing you. Sometimes even myself, I just sit in bear form a little too long, being too scared. But you kind of got to take those risks if you want to actually provide damage. So here it ends up kind of a 1v1, two 1v1 situations. The advantage to the feral here is just that when they're both completely if both of them are having mana and the other priest has to heal, your priest has to heal through wounds, the difficult part is just that they'll use more mana to heal for less. But when there's literally no mana, it's just basically a damage battle. And in the end, the feral should be able to output more damage than the rogue does. So their priest is trying to pop PS and everything. You know, my priest is popping PS, but unfortunately for them, we just do a little bit more damage and we win the game.